Today, Senator John Ossoff held an oversight session in D.C. It comes almost 1 year since he held a hearing where Balfour Beatty execs testified under oath about problems like mold, problems our I-team has been uncovering for more than a decade. Our Meredith Anderson at those meetings, and a year later in the room for today's session. She's live at 5 from the Capitol Hill Rotunda. Meredith, a lot happened today, but let's start with this question here. Are things better at Fort Gordon than they were a year ago?
Will, that's a very simple question, but it has a very complicated answer. And that answer is yes and no. Yes, because the Army says it has a lot more information and it has a lot more awareness. And with that information and with that awareness, it can do a lot more with oversight. The Army also didn't just investigate Balfour Beatty at Fort Gordon. The Army also investigated itself, and the Army admitted it found ways that it could improve oversight. And the Army also said that Balfour Beatty has hired more maintenance professionals at Fort Gordon. So all of these are steps in the right direction. But when you take a step back and when you hear what some of the families had to say today, some of that heartbreaking testimony, it really feels like, well, you were just spitting in the ocean, to be frank, especially when those three families started to share their stories. And, you know, these are the same stories the I-team has been sharing and hearing for years. In fact, the I-team interviewed Joy Vieira last year about the raw sewage leaking from her ceiling and getting backed up in her bathtubs. She told that story today. This happened, by the way, as she and her family were moving in. So this wasn't anything that she and her family did. This was a plumbing problem. She took a video of it, and we aired it right here on News 12. And today I asked her about that video and all the attention it got. And she told me she's glad she took it because she believes it is what led her here today.
I have no clue how I was able to do that when I had poop coming from our ceiling, but I was able to document in that moment and just show the extent of what was happening. And because I was able to do that, I'm able to be here today to speak up for other families that are having these same issues, that end up having to stay in those situations because they have no other options.
Do you leave here today feeling hopeful that things are going to get better?
Yes. I think, I am so thankful to Senator Ossoff because he keeps shining this light, and he's refusing to let it go.
And Joy says things have to get better, and people have to keep speaking up. And one of the problems with that, a lot of these families sign non-disclosure agreements with Balfour Beatty, so they can't speak up. A lot of them want to, but they feel bullied into silence. Now, there were 2 other families there today. They also spoke up today. I also spoke with them after the session. I also spoke to one-on-one with Senator John Ossoff. We have a lot more to cover, so I've got a lot more coming up in the next half hour, and then again on News 12 at 6 o'clock, and even more coming up tonight on News 12 at 11.
Thanks, Meredith. We certainly appreciate all of the coverage that you've given this, and we look forward to hearing what you have to say coming up in the next half hour.